Thank you. So the talk is called Security and YubiKey. And the reason it's not just a YubiKey talk, just about YubiKey and telling you just get a YubiKey and use it, is because I wanted to show you what the journey is to get to thinking about why we should use this. So it's really important to know the why in security. Because if after a while you forget, you stop doing it, especially since security things can become very annoying. If every time you need to log in, you need to use this YubiKey, some USB device, or maybe fill in some Google Authenticator password, it becomes very annoying. You might stop doing it, or other people in your organization might stop doing it. So it's very important to know why you're doing things. And it's so that you can retake this journey, maybe come to different conclusions for your organization, or perhaps come to different conclusions from different perspectives. So perhaps you're defending against different threats than what I'm defending against. So the cornerstone of modern information security is CIA. Not this CIA, this CIA. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We need all of these things to run our business. We need to make sure we're working with the right data. We need to make sure that we're available all the time so that people can use our software. This goes for web shops, where you can buy products, or for agencies or web hosts. So why do we want to secure this? Well, there's consequences. And there's some big ones. So we have GDPR, which is now very famous. It's actually just a combination of all the EU legislation on privacy bundled together. So for most countries, not much changed. But it's a good buzzword, and you can lose 4% of turnover or 20 million, whichever is higher. Then there's HIPAA here in the US. If you're working with medical data, or perhaps you have a client where they sell something medicine-like, you might fall under HIPAA, and for every breach, you could pay up to 1.6 million per type of breach. Then there's PCI, an average of $148 per card stolen. That's quite high as well. So if you think about just how many credit cards you save as a merchant, that can be hundreds of thousands. And if you lose all of those, you are very much not in a good position. Then there's the reputation. For example, Target had a really, really large breach, and they are still recovering from that. Target still doesn't have the same brand status as it had a couple of years ago. There's class actions, so Equifax lost a bunch of data, including social security numbers, and they are being sued by basically everybody and their dog. And then there's things like blackmail and theft. So people can use the information they get from you to get more from you, to get you to make decisions that are bad. And then all the way at the bottom, I'm not sure if you can see, it's sleep. There's human impact to this. There's ethics. If you are storing a lot of customer data, that is your responsibility. And those people could have very bad things happen in their life if you lost it due to whatever. So let's start modeling the threat. What is, as Magento developers or Magento agencies, what is our threat? What are some common baddies? So I specifically didn't put anybody in a balaclava here, because most of the baddies that hack you are usually pretty regular kind of people that just want some money, maybe, want your data, perhaps to sell, perhaps to use for something else. So most of our baddies are far away. Most of the people that actively attack us are not near us. They're not in our organization. They're not even in our city, and they're probably not people we know. And what they do a lot of the time is brute force. So brute force is easy to set up for somebody far away. What they do, they just find some form to log into. Perhaps it's your Magento admin, perhaps it's your Gmail. All of our emails are, of course, quite public on our websites for our agencies or for our hosting companies. And they start trying to send it stuff. They start trying to get every single password they know. Maybe they just try some common passwords, some that were leaked. Maybe they just go from 1 to 1111111. And who here is being brute forced? Maybe somebody? Probably everybody, because it's really easy. And there's just people out there who write scripts that just try stuff, that literally just fill everything in. So if you have an open port 22 for your SSH, somebody is right now trying to get into that. Then there's credential stuffing. So credential stuffing is about having a breach happen before, maybe from some personal account, maybe, for example, Yahoo got hacked. There's many very large hacks. And you still use the same username or the same password, and perhaps with the same password. So this way, things that are stolen in one place can be used in another. And one way this also happens in the Magento world, by the way, is that some stores that get compromised still have some credentials in there from extension vendors who tried to solve a problem on that shop. And if those credentials are still in there, they can be used to see if they are still valid for other Magento stores, which is a big risk. So always clean out unused accounts. And you can check if your data has been in a recent breach. So you can fill in your email at Have I Been Pwned, and you will see in what breaches your email appears. And these are all public breaches. You can assume that at least some hacker group has them if they're on this website. So then you know if Baddies have it. You can also do this for everybody in your company, for example, which is a great way to let people know, like, hey, do you know that this password that you used 8 years ago, people know about it. And perhaps if you still use it, that's maybe something you don't want to happen. So in comes the one-time password. We have two-factor authentication. Maybe this is Google Auth, or perhaps you get a text message, for example, when you log into your bank, to fill in and give it as a one-time extra password to next to your normal password to log in. These can be very useful. This completely solves our brute forcing problem because there are not many tries somebody can do with a different password. They simply won't get further than this one-time password. So that's fantastic. We solved it. We can all go home. Unfortunately, no. We have this other thing called phishing. This is another thing that people can automate. These are, again, the bad guys that are far away from us and are trying to get our data. So I assume everybody knows what phishing is. Yeah, and it's another aspect of this confidentiality, integrity, availability. It will still affect that a lot. Who here can't be phished? Anybody? Telesh, maybe? No? No, you can still be phished? Yeah, that's a pretty good indicator. If Telesh can still be phished, we can all still be phished. There's always somebody who thinks like, oh, those are easy emails. Like, of course, there's some weird subject line, and it's not specifically to me, so like, I won't never click on that. But it's actually very easy to phish. So this is also not something where you should expect it to be some really sophisticated hacking group that's specifically after you. There could just simply be somebody that is after people who do Magento, and that happen to have a bunch of email addresses from people that do Magento. Maybe from a conference, maybe from just looking up Magento. I mean, all of our sales contacts, we have email addresses on our cards, we have them on our websites. So what can you do? You can register magento.com to start your phishing campaign. So because of the quality, maybe you won't see it quite as good, but there's a thingy under the T and a thingy under the O, or above the O. This is very hard to spot when you're just reading emails, you're not sure what this is about, maybe it's about a patch or something, and you're hovering over a link. Is everybody going to see that dot and that thing under the T? I'm not quite sure. This is, though, still one of the kind of obvious ones, because I tried to register this one, and it was already registered. Does anybody see how this is not Magento.com? Anybody? No? Well, that is not a normal G. That G is a Latin subscript G. So you can register this and send completely valid emails. This is something anybody can do. This is, just a website. You register it, and then you use GoFish. GoFish is a small program. You just start it up. It's one command. Starts 2 servers. One server where you input your phishing scam, the thing you want to send out to people, and one that actually scams people. So you can do a thing like import email, which I did here with a patch note from Magento. So this is a patching email. You just copy it out of Gmail, you put it in here, and it has this neat little check mark, change all links to landing page. So it changes literally all the links in the email to go to your web page, which is amazing, which you, of course, host again on this magento.com website. And you create the landing page. You say, capture all data and capture passwords. So that works perfectly. And you can go sign into Google. And what happens is you fill in your email, you fill in your password, and you can fill in your one-time password. But of course, this email, password, one-time password, I can just give to Google. And you think you're logged in, but perhaps I'm logged in as well with these same credentials. So, one-time passwords in two-factor authentication do not help us with phishing. And they won't help us with all the baddies that are far away from us. So, other reasons why one-time passwords are bad: SMS. The fallback is usually SMS. SMS is a pretty insecure standard. SMS messages are originally the talk messages between cell towers, and they just flowed through clear text. Like anybody on the network can read them. Now, you assume that only your cell phone company is on your network, but that's of course not true, because your SMS message can go to other cell phone networks. For example, if you're in a foreign country, that cell phone network will say, your telephone is in this country. So a malicious network can pretend that your phone is in some country. And there are services that you can buy where perhaps some cell phone company in a poor country offers to get these SMS messages. And then there's SIM swapping, which is the easier way. You get somebody's phone number, you get somebody's name, and you just call up the cell phone company and you say, hey, I lost my SIM card, can you send me a new one? Oh, by the way, my address changed. And this happens a lot, especially with high-profile people. So you might have seen this happen with some of your favorite YouTubers or some of your, some well-known people that got their Instagram hacked. For example, Jack's Twitter account was not SIM swapping, but it was something close. So in comes U2F. And this looks very complicated, and it is, for a reason. U2F is a new standard, and it doesn't just give a time-based one-time password. What it does, actually, is it communicates with your browser. So there's the U2F device, which in my case is a YubiKey, but there's different types. It talks to the client, which in our case is probably a web browser. So both Chrome and Firefox support this. And then there's the relaying party. And that is the thing we want to log into. So they have our public key, we have our private key, and much like SSH, the browser confirms that we're talking to the thing we actually want to talk to, and together with the domain name, it's being verified. So because of that, even if the domain name looks very real to you, looks very much like it should be magento.com, it's not. It verifies it. And this has great effects. So these are slides from Google, who have now made YubiKey use mandatory in the entire company. And you can see that there's automated bulk phishing attack and targeted phishing attack. So the automated bot, that's kind of like the credential stuffing or the brute forcing that we talked about before. So what you can see is that that's not very effective usually, but, and these are all kind of different challenges, so device-based challenges and knowledge-based challenges, secondary email address, if you fill that in, then most people you won't, it will still be very ineffective, but there's still some percentage that it gets. Phone number, then it's still like not super effective, because these are just things you need to fill in. And last sign-in location especially, like you can find anywhere where somebody lives or works. It's very easy to just select like, oh yeah, last time I logged in from like the Netherlands because that's where I'm from. Then there's the on-device prompt, which is something that Google has now enabled by default, which is just a little thing where you say, yes, I would like to log in. This is still like, people still click this. You can try and log into somebody's account. It will say like, would you like to log into your account on your mobile device? People will still say like, I guess, like this is probably right. Like, I'm not sure. People will still click this. And then there's the phone number, the SMS and the security key. So the SMS code in a targeted phishing attack, just like I showed you, you can just relay it. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing that says like this one will only work from this, coming from this location or this person. And then there's a security key, and here you see that it's 100%, 100%, 100%. Security keys that are U2F enabled eliminate pretty much phishing. So that's it, the YubiKey. And by the way, I'm not paid by YubiKey or anything. I'm just a big fan. And these are the new ones. So this month they came out with this one, which is one that has Lightning and USB-C, so you can use it on your mobile devices as well. They also use NFC. And there's also, if you don't want to use YubiKeys, Google also has devices that do this. There was one that used Bluetooth, which YubiKey warned against. And then a couple months later, it was breached. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt, but I really trust YubiKey. They also replace the full key if something is wrong with it, because there's no possible way to update it, because that would be a security risk. So if they find any bug or something, they literally just send you a new one. So yeah, that's it. We actually solved it. We solved phishing. We solved brute force. We do not have to get hacked by these faraway baddies anymore. So this one threat, we solved completely. Now, of course, I also want to talk a little bit about Magento, since we're on a Magento conference. One of the best ways to make sure this works in all the applications that you use is trying to use single sign-on. So use your Google account, for example, if you use Google, or perhaps your GitHub account. There's many types of accounts that can do this, to log into every place. So if you are using Google Apps, but also Jira and also Bitbucket or something, log in with all of that through Google. Because this is one place of failure that you can make sure that this key works on. You don't have to keep logging into all these systems with the same key. And yeah, that works fine. But there's also this great extension from Mage Specialist, which makes sure that you can use a YubiKey to log into your Magento backend. So you can even use it just for your Magento backend. And this is also good, like maybe your customer doesn't use Google, but they still want to have this security. They still want to make sure that if they're in a backend, they send it to the right one and not to like my backend. Give them a YubiKey, and it solves a lot of problems. So yeah, from this and the journey we just took, you can take it for yourself, and you can see if this applies to you. Perhaps with this YubiKey, I think this is a pretty universal case since we're all being attacked by bad guys from far away. But perhaps you have different things to make sure that you have confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your information. So yeah, any questions?
All right. For your questioning pleasure, we have microphones in the middle of the room now, so I don't have to get all that cardio.
Come on, you're really good at cardio.
Oh, hey, come on now. This belt's as tight as it gets.
What happens if you lose your YubiKey?
This is a really good question, because if Baddies can't get in without the key, then you also cannot get in without the key. Yeah. So if you set up your systems properly and use YubiKey properly, and then you lose it, you cannot get in. That is the entire point. Of course, you are not obligated to use only one YubiKey. So what I would advise is like get a second one and a third one. One for the location where you're using it, and one for for example, one that you save in your house, and one at your mom's place, for example. And those are just backups. One for close by, for if you need it like really, really quick, and one if your house burns down and you forget both YubiKeys when you're running out, which shouldn't be your priority, you can still get one at your mom. Yeah. So that's it, basically. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
More questions?
Going once,
No.
going twice. All right, Len, thank you very much. That was great. Feel
Thank
like
you.
you're a superhero.